Welcome to Houston Life, everybody. I'm your host, Derek Shore, and joining me today, again, you can see the lovely Lauren Kelly from Mix 96.5.
Hey, guys. I'm so excited to be here.
I was just listening to you on the radio this morning.
Yeah.
And here you are in the flesh.
I'm here. I had to do a little pajama change. I don't want to come to work in some sleepy clothes.
Well, we're going to have a lot of fun today, so thanks for coming by.
Absolutely. I'm so excited about this. And we're going to start off shows today with a little Houston history. Do you know why the city grew so fast? Neighborhoods like River Oaks, Bel Air, you know how they came to be?
I don't, but I think we're about to find out.
Okay.
And all of these questions, by the way, they are part of a special course at Rice University called City in a City. You don't have to be a student, by the way, to take the course at Rice. Local historian R.W. McKinney joins us with a preview. Hi, R.W., how are you?
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's good to see you. It's nice to have you back after so long. So this is such a great idea. It's not just for university students, but someone like me. I could go down and sign up.
Anybody can take the course. So it's part of the Glasscock School of Continuing Education Studies over at Rice University. So it's on the campus of Rice University, but the Glasscock School produces these wonderful courses throughout the year, fall and spring courses, and this is one of them. It's called City in a City, and we're so excited to be able to talk about these different parts of Houston that grew and that kind of gave it its shape and its style. So I mean, you know, Harris County itself is very massive and large, as we all know, but to be able to have these different areas and tell the stories behind those areas is what this particular course does at the Glasscock School.
You know, history is actually a really interesting thing. I think for a lot of people don't realize how interesting it can be, but many of us were just afflicted with really bad history teachers growing up.
I grew up here, so I'm not going to go ahead and say that.
What was the name of your history teacher? So listen, we're going to focus today then on some of the different neighborhoods in Houston, because some of these neighborhoods are actually cities within the city, but some are not actually cities. They were just annexed by Houston, right?
True. So some of them started out as municipalities. Actually, all of them except for the area of River Oaks. That was actually a planned community, and it was a pretty interesting planned community, and there's a lot of history behind that, which we'll go over. But I mean, overall, these municipalities, some are still independent municipalities, and some were actually absorbed by the city of Houston throughout the years. Jim Parsons kicks off the course on October 4th, and he's with Preservation Houston, and he's going to talk about just kind of a course on the annexation and the sprawl of these particular 5 areas. Some cities wanted to be annexed, some did not. So it's a misconception. Some people think, oh, everybody doesn't want to be annexed. But in some cases, if you're a small municipality and you can't really necessarily provide for your citizens, or you don't have the resources, sometimes being annexed or gobbled by Houston isn't such a bad thing. So they happen at different time periods in Houston's growth, and that's what Jim Parsons is going to really talk about, the overall sprawl, and then he's going to give an introduction to the course itself, and then it's going to kick off with the different types of cities. So it runs for 6 Wednesdays, 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. at the Glasscock School. So he'll kick it off, and then we'll go on to the very first city, which is Southside Place, and then make our way throughout the different courses. So it's really exciting.
Can I ask about Southside Place?
Yeah.
I had an apartment over there, and it's also the area of West U. Mm-hmm. So can we talk about how some of these areas kind of got their names? I grew up in Meyerland and near Bel Air, so we had a little conversation off the air about those two cities.
Absolutely. So the way in Rice University plays such an important part ironically, in a lot of these different cities. For example, Rice was started in 1912, and it was started in the lower part over here, just south of Houston, in the south end rather, and it kind of started to, that's one of the reasons why West University is called West University, is west of the university, Rice University, right? 1917. So you have Southside Place, which is what the topic's going to be about. Judge Katie McCormick, she's the municipal judge for the city of Southside Place, but she also wrote the book all about Southside, which is wonderful. She's extremely knowledgeable about this, and what makes Southside Place a little bit different was that you had Edward Crane, who developed this area, and he also had a company called Crane Ready Cut Homes. So not only did he plan the community, he also went out there and sold the homes. So he kind of did 2 things. Whereas some communities allowed somebody to come in there and plot their own, buy their own houses, he kind of did a one-stop shop scenario.
Well, when it comes to the home prices, do you know how much these homes cost? Because that reminds me of my grandma's house that she bought, I think, for $5,000. And it was a kit home.
In River Oaks?
No, like in Utah. But
what a deal.
But back in that time,
no kit homes.
Yeah, no, you're right.
It was very common back in that time to buy a home out of a kit, like a Craftsman home from Sears was a kit.
It was absolutely commonplace, and the manufacturing place was actually right here in Houston, over in the East End, Crane Ready Cut Homes. And Southside Place also kind of evolved like most cities do. They were founded in 1925. On Easter of 1925 was the big PR ribbon cutting, and kind of launched the city. The fire truck is a really, big part of their fire truck park, and it's kind of telling their story of the municipal growth of the city. But they've been independent by themselves, and they've loved it ever since. And it is one of the wealthier parts of our city per capita. So that, you know, although it started out as ready-cut homes, there's no ready-cut homes in River Oaks, for example. You know, and so it started out that way. It has now evolved to these different types of housing, you know, options that are right there in Southside Place. And Judge Kate McCormick is going to be talking about this in detail, and she's just excellent and wonderful. And like I said, she wrote the book all about Southside, so you're going to get to hear it from the person herself.
Let's talk about the Heights for a minute. I didn't realize the Heights was founded back in 1891.
Heights has got some history.
It certainly does.
Yeah.
It sure does. So it was started in 1891. Oscar Martin had a Nebraska syndicate that came in here, purchased the land, about 7,000 plus acres of site. It was completely far from the city of Houston. There wasn't that much connecting it from 1891 when Houston was founded back in 1836, for example. And the trolley was instrumental in getting people. It runs on Heights Boulevard, of course, and then would connect where about Washington Avenue was, and that would take people up to downtown Houston. So, you know, that particular trolley site that you see right there, I mean, that was necessary to get people back and forth.
Isn't it weird to look at this now and then drive down Heights Boulevard today?
It is. It's so neat. And so that's going to be discussed by an amazing lady. I mean, I want to say, you know, several years in the area. She's written 4 books on the Heights. Her name is Ann Sloan, and Ann, you know, works with education, works with kids, very active with the Heights, Association. Example of Victorian homes. There's Mr. Milroy's Mansion, one of the founders of the Heights, for example. You know, but these homes are still intact. So if you really want to see a lot of Houston's Victorian and architecture from the past, the Heights has probably got the best concentration of that still intact. It's a wonderful association, Heights Association, founded in 1973, and they're really active in preserving their neighborhood and keeping the character of that. Bill Baldwin's the current president. Like I said, Ann Sloan's in charge of the educational aspects of the Heights Association. They've been doing a great job. So she'll be talking about the history of the Heights. Like I said, 4 books on the Heights. She is the know-it-all. She is wonderful. So you're going to get a treat by hearing Miss Ann Sloan speak, you know, at the course itself.
I don't know if you saw that old Victorian-style house. It was built up, so a lot of those homes are preserved away from the flooding because they're already on risen land, right? With those
and the Heights was always higher up. That's where it gets its name, the Heights. It's a little bit higher.
I didn't want to look stupid and ask that, but
and that's the reason why. And that was a selling feature of it as well. It's very close to the bayou, but it does happen to be pretty high up. It's close to White Oaks Bayou, which makes really the southern boundary of the Heights. So yeah, that's where it gets its name from.
So speaking of flooding, Bel Air had some issues with flooding, but a lot of homes were saved, though. So talk about the history of Bel Air and how it started.
So Bel Air itself started by a guy named William Wright Baldwin, and this was back in 1908 is when he actually purchased the land and started to develop it. And what's ironic, again, this whole Rice connection, all these speakers, it all kind of comes back to Rice. So the fact that the Glasscock School is doing this program and they're located on Rice campus is really exciting. That's William Wright Baldwin on the screen over there. William Wright Baldwin was the president of the Burlington Railroad Company. He also developed a trolley system down his Paseo Park, which runs actually east to west. And that was a big part. It connected the city. It was from 1910 to about 1927, but this connected the city back and forth. It was a lifeline for the city of Bel Air. It was actually sold as farm lots, and that was the whole concept behind it. Westmoreland Farms was the area. Mr. Baldwin had success with Westmoreland in 1902, which is a subdivision planned area just where Elgin is at, right there on Westheimer and Spur 527. Yeah. Also older homes there as well. Had a lot of success in 1902, decided to do Bel Air in 1908, actually plucked Edward Tease from his Midwestern business that he had, brought him here. Edward Tease ended up landscaping Rice University. Again, another connection. Rice University ended up landscaping parts of River Oaks and then also parts of Montrose area and, of course, the whole city of Bel Air. But Bel Air was an independent community. As you see, it was a city. It was actually incorporated in 1918. But from 1908 to present day, it has its own mayor, its own fire chief, its own Bel Air chief, police chief. So it really is, all these they've maintained their character. And it is difficult because something that Southside Place and Bel Air have in common that I'll talk about in my speech, since I'm going to be discussing the city of Bel Air, is the 1945 sneak attack that you had with the city of West University. They tried to annex the city of Bel Air at a midnight council meeting, 1945, December 31st, 1945. They passed a resolution to annex the city of Bel Air and Southside Place. Now, we were lucky because we had a guy named Abe Zindler, who was the mayor, past mayor of Bel Air, had a lot of clout, and he lived right next door to Governor Allred, James Allred, the former governor. And they worked really hard to make sure that Westview was not successful in their efforts. But how dare they try to annex these areas, right? It was pretty brazen.
No.
A lot of drama. And of course, Abe Zindler, his son was Marvin Zindler, the famous TV TV personality. So this is the Bel Air Trolley, and again, it ran for 1910 and 1927, was a lifeline of the community. The Bel Air residents themselves, they were real pioneers. They were individuals that went out there, and they conquered the prairie, because what we had in the early teens, in 1915 we had the big hurricane. So everybody knows the 1900 hurricane that we had, but the 1915 hurricane was equally bad in regards to Bel Air, because it wiped out about 2/3 of the homes in Bel Air. So you had a situation where these pioneers just moved here in 1910, got their house all set up, and then it gets destroyed by the hurricane. Big deal. And it was all prairie, so a hurricane just kind of rips on through 2/3 of the homes.
So 2 minutes left. We still have to hit Harrisburg and River Oaks. Harrisburg, I understand, was where downtown almost ended up, right?
I had no idea.
It was an independent municipality. John Harris purchased the land in 1824. 1826, it starts to come to fruition and be plotted. It gets annexed by the city in 1926. But this would have been downtown Houston. The Allen brothers tried to originally buy this land and were not successful. They couldn't get clear title. They ended up going further upstream where White Oaks Bayou meets Buffalo Bayou, and that's where Houston is today. But Harrisburg has a lot of history, a lot of, it's a tiny part of the area. It is no more. It was absorbed again by the city. There's John Harris, absorbed by the city of Houston.
And it's southeast
railroad
of downtown.
It is to the southeast of downtown. It's where Brays Bayou actually feeds into Buffalo Bayou. There's John Harris's home. It gives you an idea of what the homes were like. It was kind of very pioneer-esque, and also it had an important role in the battle of freedom for our country, for our state that became Texas. You had it burned down by Santa Anna. He and his troops actually marched through Harrisburg and then burned the city down, and then made their way back eventually to San Jacinto, where we had the battle. So it plays an important role. And the very last one that we have, of course, is River Oaks, and that's by Dr. Stephen Fox. He's going to be doing the history of that area. This space has been planned out immaculately, and it's still, highly sought after. And Dr. Stephen Fox, architectural historian over at Rice University, is going to do a wonderful job on that. So that kind of rounds up what's happening October 4th all the way until the end of middle of November, actually, and it's 6 weeks of courses on Wednesday evening.
Wednesday nights, and you don't have to be enrolled in Rice to take the course. So we could
do it. We could do it to be a Rice Owl for like a day a week.
I would love that. Now, I mean, who really should be signing up for a course like this?
That's a great question, and I think first off, the short answer is everybody should be signing up for this course. But in my heart, I really think realtors, every realtor in Houston, any developer, anybody who's benefited from the growth of Houston should learn from this particular course, because Preservation Houston and the Glasscock School of Continuing Studies have done a really good job of putting this together, and we want people to come by and learn about their city. This is micro history. You're not going to learn anywhere else, and not in this capacity, and not by these amazing speakers.
Okay, R.W. McKinney, thank you so much. And it's great. You always hear you can know where you're going if you know where you came from.
Oh,
so
I like
knowing
that.
our history is very important. If you guys would like to learn more about the city in a city course at Rice University, the details will be on our website, HoustonLife.tv, later today, or the information was just there on your screen.
Still to come on Houston Life, looking for a fun day trip or